All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Gabe, Goose, and Anthony. Embrace Tutoring. In this episode, we have special guest, Anthony Weinkopff. We cover topics that range from learning, teaching, study habits, the importance of positivity, effects of the pandemic, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from William, Arthur, Ward, and Pete Carroll. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, Anthony, thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good vibe.
I like it. So, man, so let's jump right into it. Let us know who you are and what you do.
So my name is Anthony Weinkopff, and I'm trying to make a long story short. So I actually grew up in Bristol Borough, proudly. I've had a lot of experiences along the way. I've gone and studied a number of different places, and essentially what happened along the way is I ended up becoming director and one of the co-founders of Embrace Tutoring Educational Services. So I ended up actually working at a teaching position, kind of evaluating what I wanted to do, right? We're all kind of in that little bit of a crossroads. I was thinking MD, MBA, right? Previously, sure. I fell in love with kind of the educational kind of business side of things when I was working up in northern New Jersey for a little bit at a private tutoring or at an independent school for private school. I got fortunate enough to be featured as one of the nation's teacher of the week, right? Wow. And growing up around here where I was a public school kid, proudly, Harry Truman High School, born and raised. Yeah. It was a very unfamiliar world to me of that private school sector. Yeah. And one of my first clients ever was actually, one of my first independent student clients was one of the, I think, like vice president of Verizon up in Basking Ridge. It was his daughter. Wow. And kind of inspired a lot of things. I built up a really large audience. But I was fortunate to take on two really amazing co-founders, Andy and Suzanne, and since that time we've kind of built Embrace into what it is today. I'm sure you guys can relate, right? You pivot a lot for business, but absolutely. Yeah, we were in a nutshell, right? To kind of explain what Embrace does, we were kind of victims of our own success, right? We started out private tutoring initially, working with a lot of schools and parents and families, and we're like, you know what? Let's run an SAT prep program. We think that's going to be a good idea. And in that one SAT and ACT prep summer class, we had 6 or 7 students all get perfect scores.
Whoa!
Wow.
Oh my gosh! So it gave me the chills.
It quickly became a hit, and then we kind of had to figure out the model and kind of redesign a few things. So now basically what we do is we design academic roadmaps for students and families who are looking to apply to some level of education, right? Okay. We have a lot of individuals that want to apply to high school, a lot of individuals that might want to apply to college. It's a very large audience of ours, and a lot of individuals that might want to apply to graduate school in some fashion. So we basically create those academic roadmaps with them. We do a lot of consultations along the way, and we match them with really experienced tutors who are experts in their crafts, in a nutshell. And then we provide a lot of features to kind of make it a one-stop shop, right? Make things easy as they're being guided throughout the process. Yeah.
So before the show started, we talked about getting things started, right? And naming the podcast and how we came about with certain things. How did you guys come up with Embrace Tutoring?
It was to be fair, I think I had a few other names in mind first, but it honestly became more of like an ideology because for us it was always about like holistic education, and Embrace is more of a kind of like a figurative, hey, you want to embrace this mindset more than anything else of putting yourself in a better place, putting yourself in a better position for opportunity. We work with students and families all across the country. We even work with a lot of various public schools and independent schools, even in this area throughout Bucks County. And our idea of success is really kind of helping the students and the families become more empowered throughout that process to make better decisions. So for us, Embrace is more of a, hey, embrace education, right? As in order to help you get on your journey of like, how is this going to benefit your life, so to speak, right? So that's really where we came up with the name.
I love it. I love it. And so when did you know you actually had something and you said, all right, you had your co-founders all come together and start the whole thing?
No, that's a good question. I would say, so first of all, for anyone out there that's interested in maybe starting a business, right? I would say that for me, it's when I started to find value in it, and I didn't. It didn't matter if it was myself or if somebody else was going to do it in order to bring value to the outside world. And I said, okay, I think this is something that is worthwhile, and I just couldn't sit on the idea. Right, I was already teaching at a school. I was working on this kind of nights and weekends, and my business partners and I kind of took it on. And I think that we knew that we had something. Obviously, the success stories made a huge difference, but it definitely helped us when we knew, I mean, yeah, obviously the success story is college acceptances, et cetera. But I think the eureka moment is when a lot of the students started to do really well, and then we were able to say, oh, wow, we really need to redefine this model. And then how do we go back to the market and sort of re-identify what our value proposition is going to be? Yeah.
I love it. So explain a little bit about the industry itself. Is it a competitive industry? Is it, something that you need a business background to get into, or is it just driven off a lot of a passion? Obviously, you have the expertise and knowledge, right? But that aside, or maybe what are some of the challenges you faced with it?
There have been a lot of challenges along the way.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing for anybody is, and definitely it kind of goes back to the whole idea of if you're going to start a business, is you need to go get experience in that field.
Absolutely.
Right? You really need to kind of cut your teeth. You need to you need to learn. You need to grow. You need to identify, for better or worse, and get that experience under your belt. I would say some of the earlier challenges we faced was. I don't want to say moving too fast, but in the beginning, we made a lot of mistakes because we were testing things. We were testing marketing strategies. We were testing who's the right audience. We were testing who's the right model. Kind of doing a little bit too much too fast. And when we started to really focus just on private tutoring, and then from the success of that, we said, oh, well, actually a big eureka moment for us was we were noticing a lot of our students who were doing incredibly and kind of giving themselves chances to be selected, right, for various colleges or various high schools. They were kind of all following a similar recipe. So the big eureka moment for us was we said, hey, let's take all the things that the students are doing, right? All the families, all the consultations, whether it's like completing a financial aid form or maybe diagnostics. Let's build all that in for free, right? In addition to private tutoring.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's kind of what makes us a little bit different, is that our families will come to us, they'll work with us, they do various packages. We have a package, kind of simplified package model, and then depending on the level of the package, they get a bunch of extra features. Nice. So they'll get like extra review sessions, they'll get extra diagnostics, they'll get college counseling consults, or financial aid consults. Okay. So what we wanted to do is keep it simplified, and some motivation for that, honestly, was kind of, we were looking at other businesses and other industries, and I think one of the businesses that we, or some of the businesses we looked at actually were like gym and fitness memberships. Yeah. And we said, hey, well, this gym has a personal trainer, but then you get a nutritionist and you get a dietitian. And if you purchase a certain level of package, you get exercise classes, right?
Makes sense.
So for us, we said, well, let's make this a holistic model for education. And then as it grows, we can find ways of giving back to people in the community that normally couldn't afford it, to let's create an online platform and give it away to schools, kind of create an outreach program. So yeah, that was kind of a big eureka moment for us.
I love it. All right, so on your website it states, Embrace believes that teachers and mentors have the power to motivate, inspire, and even instill a love of learning. Can you explain? I love that.
I mean,
it's pretty self-explanatory, but you know what I mean. We've all had good teachers, and we've all had the teacher that they're not exactly your cup of tea. Sure. We do a really good, vetting process of our educators. All of them are very qualified. All of them have over 1,000 hours of private tutoring experience. I would say
80% or more have like masters or PhDs.
Wow.
They're all really, really good at what they do. But a big part of what we do is also being very welcoming, right? Being very confidence building, right? We're working with young adults, sometimes even elementary students, sometimes even mothers going back to school for their nursing degree.
For sure.
So a big part of it is like relationships as well. So we can't just have robots like teaching people,
exactly.
right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what YouTube's for.
Yeah, sure.
So instead we're like, all right, well,
true.
We need very welcoming individuals who are experts in their craft and can kind of lead this. So I would definitely say that one of the things that makes us different is just the quality of the educators that we have.
I love it. So how do you select educators to know they are the right fit for Embrace Tutoring?
Usually based off of experience, honestly, and then through the interview process and how down to earth they are, and then at the same time, right, the students and the families will develop a vibe as they're working with educators. They'll generally have preferences, but the educators are really good at what they do too. So they'll also have preferences. They'll also come to us and they'll say, I generally work best with these students. Maybe they have learning accommodations. Maybe I generally specialize in like elementary education, right? Or we'll have other educators too that are like, I only want students, near perfect or above. We're like, okay, that's fine if that's what you want, right? And it's like they'll teach like AP stats and physics, and they're saying I want really high level, and that's totally fine. So we have various educators. I think we have 200 or so now nationwide.
Wow.
That are
that's awesome.
They're very good, right? They meet and they work. But then we also have a fabulous team, right? We have the 3 business partners who are full-time, and then we have a staff of other individuals who run like weekend diagnostics or college consultations, or we have a gentleman who does financial advising, right, as you're budgeting for college or maybe high school, etc. And now we're actually even exploring the idea of bringing wellness in, like therapy and wellness and kind of school psychology. So that way it's kind of one-stop shop of everything what the students and really what the families need. Yeah, but everybody fits the mold of, are we making, basically really what it comes down to is, are we making decisions that are the best interest of the student and the family, right?
Yeah.
Are they kind, are they welcoming, and are they experts in their craft as they're working with the families? Yeah.
So I'm sure when you all had that first lineup of clients that had perfect scores, a lot of marketing had to have been word of mouth. I mean, that is just something. Yeah. Oh, you did say you were featured as was it Teacher of the Week or Tutor of the Week?
Yeah. And so initially, and kind of going back to your, I don't think I answered it well enough, but
that's all right.
Initially we got a lot of spark when I was featured. Parents were coming out of nowhere and saying, "Hey, I'd really love for you to work with my son or daughter." To say, I have no idea who you are, but this is great. And I was a young guy at the time. Yeah. I think, oh my God, that year I put so many miles on I can't even remember. I got stuck in a snowstorm one time. Had to sleep in my car.
Oh my God.
And when I slept in my car, I was like, this is what I want to do for, like, there's a reason why I'm stuck in the snow.
That's amazing.
Right? And I was like, that year I made, and I was dating who is now my wife at the time.
Yeah.
I went and I talked to her and I said, because obviously we started dating after the snowstorm.
Yeah.
But she was like, if this is something you really want to do, I fully support you. And she's an entrepreneur now, so it's kind of a beautiful thing. But yeah, in the beginning there were a lot of there was a lot of testing, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of testing, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. But after we would just consistently evaluate, what's in the best interest of the families. And eventually we started broadening into like content development, SEO, right, SMS, content webinars, podcasts, right? So a lot of different things. And that over the years has been a nice client retention growth. We now have a number of different facilities around the country.
Wow.
We have one main headquarters which we work with up in northern New Jersey, but it's been a ride. So
holy smokes.
Yeah, it's been good.
I love that. All right, so also on your website it states, we encourage our students to adopt positive study habits. Can you explain what positive study habits are or could be?
Oh, I actually kind of love this question because parents ask me sometimes about we don't do tutoring hours for tutoring's sake, right? Sometimes there's a lot of industry or a lot of agencies out there that like purposely will have you come and do tutoring because, right, it's good for good business. But in our instance, what we are trying to build simultaneously, right, outside of the fact that, hey, you're getting your grades or your test prep scores or whatever it is like, not only do we want to make you more confident, but like we want to make you a better learner. So we'll teach them things along the way of like how to hold themselves accountable.
Sure.
Whether it's like tracking incorrect answers, resources that you'll find value. Khan Academy is amazing, right? If you don't want to give us a call for paid private tutoring, call Google Khan Academy. Absolutely, right. There's a ton of free resources out there,
For sure.
which are terrific for students and for families. So we will happily guide them to that path, right? If that's the case, because them being better learners is really what the eventual goal is. Some people do want to get that edge, and they give us a call.
I love it. So you already sort of answered this, but just in case you want to break it down a little bit more, explain what a diagnostic evaluation is.
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm just curious, have you guys ever gone to like graduate school?
I started,
Okay.
Didn't finish, going for my MBA at Drexel University, and I was just like, what?
Yeah, no. Well, congrats.
Working father, married. It was like, oh gosh, professional.
Yeah, well, you would kind of be a type of clientele, right? And what a diagnostic is, like, let's say you're applying to college, right? Because that's the most popular. Is you're probably going to take the SAT or the ACT. Right, which obviously has huge financial benefits if you do well on the test, right? You receive more in terms of merit scholarships, not even just in terms of admissions, but it helps you, like, financially speaking, which we do have a huge audience that comes to us for that reason, right? It's a return on investment. But a diagnostic is just to help them gauge really where they are.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay. It's a judgment-free diagnostic zone, right? We are like, do as well as you can on the test.
Absolutely.
And we are going to look at your diagnostic. And one of the core things that we do is we break down literally every single question. So we'll categorize every question. Because a lot of times certain students will come to us like a little defeated.
Yeah.
They'll be like, especially with COVID math, right? The last couple of years.
Yes.
So they're like, Mr. Anthony, I don't know anything about algebra. And I was like, no, you're good. You just forget ratios, right? Or you forget triangles, or you forget something of that, sort. And what we do is we break it down very specifically for them, so we can like attack it, like Shaq at the free throw line, right? That's the whole idea. It's very purposeful, and then they start to see, oh, well, I can improve in this area, so now I get a 20-point swing, 30-point swing. The diagnostic is just to give us baseline of like where they're starting. We do it a lot for GRE, right? GMAT is something we're getting a little bit into more, but SAT and ACT for sure, like especially with a lot of the high school students we work with. Yeah.
So once someone, so they take this diagnostic evaluation, a conversation or a consultation happens. Is that how the material content is determined? Or and then is that an agreement? Like you all, like you guys are breaking them down, right, so to speak, and you are all in an agreement. Hey, maybe we should focus on X, Y, and Z, and then you develop the game plan together? Or?
Yep. Okay. There's a lot of sometimes their counselor might be involved. The parents are definitely involved.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the parents are more involved than the child. Like the parents are having those conversations with us.
For sure.
And then the child just shows up and we're like, by the way, you're taking the SAT. Right? Welcome to Saturday.
For
right?
sure.
We make it as fun as we possibly can. But it's a lot of the diagnostics early on are just having those hard, honest conversations and managing expectations of, hey, where have we seen students improve? What do you need to work on? What's the estimated amount of hours?
Exactly.
Right? Like if you say I want to run the Boston Marathon, how long should I train for? Depends. Right? Like so those are the conversations that we're having early on. And then what makes us unique is that because we've worked in admissions in colleges and a lot of the staff has worked professionally for years and years and years, is we kind of know what landmines to dodge. We'll say, hey, in October, you're going to want to get, if you're a junior by next year, you're going to want to prepare to get your budget together to fill out your financial aid form, right? Or we have this happens a lot where we have sophomores and juniors in high school, and they're like, hey, when should I take my SRT or my ACT? And we're like, well, that's great, but remember, you're taking 5 APs, which all happen the first 2 weeks of May. So you probably don't want to do it during that week, right? It's going to be really like you're going to hate yourself. So we've and those are probably 2 of like 100 things. So our advocates kind of work with the families to kind of create that roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's similar. You know, my son's in baseball, and we wanted to work on his batting, so we hired a hitting coach. And it's funny because it's the same thing. You know, just having just a basic conversation. Now, my son's 8 years old, and there's a lot to develop there anyway. But just having a basic conversation with him, he's saying it's like a lot of it's up to. You know, I have all the know-how, but how bad does the kid or the student or the player want it? Or are they just doing it to please their parents? He's like, and it's sometimes it can be frustrating because it's like I actually sometimes want it more than they want it.
Yeah. It's just called embrace hitting or something like that, right? For embrace batting. Right?
Seriously. All right, so your site offers SAT courses that feature hundreds of lessons. Explain briefly the content of these offerings. So I saw like 2 packages.
So we actually our packages in a really simplified way. SAT is like one subject that we do.
Okay, gotcha.
SAT and ACT are just a subject area that we typically offer. And yes, we do work with a really large high school population. I would say almost 50% of our audience is high school, but we work from students all the way from like 3rd grade, usually to 1st or 2nd year of college.
Oh, wow.
We get a lot of like college calculus,
nice.
Like college algebra, college physics,
classic,
or a lot of algebra 2. Everybody needs algebra 2, in some fashion. But yeah, it's a spectrum of services. One unique thing about our model to make it easier for families was, and this is something we adapted over time, is that any hour you purchase can be used for any subject, or it can be used for any tutor, or it can be used for any sibling. So we get a lot of families. We get families that come to us and say, oh, well, I have an older daughter who's in high school, and I have a younger son who is in 4th grade, and he needs math enrichment or reading enrichment over the summer.
Gotcha.
So we're like, you know what? Let's make this easy on everybody. Right? You'll purchase a large amount of hours. Here's your academic plans. We'll check in with the family over the time. The tutor builds a rapport with the family, or tutors, because usually there's 3 or 4 in the mix. We'll take care of all those things for you, and they're happy. And a lot of the families that we work with, I'm proud to say, we've worked with them for quite some time. There's a few families that have been with us for almost like 6 years.
Wow.
Like 6, 7. A lot of our tutors have been with us for, I think we're going into it's hard to believe, like into our 9th year.
Wow.
And some of our tutors have been around since day 1.
Wow.
Like a lot, actually most of our tutors have been around.
That's awesome.
So our tutor retention, our client retention is very, very good. But if you take care of people,
sure,
right?
Absolutely.
And if you adapt things, and if you're thinking like, okay, what can I do to make your experience better? It's just easy.
I love it. All right, so speaking of experience, what if a client's interested in these services, what can they expect? What are the hours of operation? Is it customized? I know you mentioned something about weekends. Kind of, what can they expect? What if they're working all day, they're in school all day? How does it truly work?
Well, they would simply give us a call. We would figure out what their needs are. Depending on like what their academic journey is, of where they're, and sometimes if they don't need us, we will point you in the right direction.
Sure.
We'll say this is going to be more of what you're looking for. Here's a link to this place of kind of what you need.
Yeah.
But if they're looking to work with us, usually it's pretty standard. Like most clients will meet with the tutors, or let's say most students will meet with the tutors, I would say once or twice a week, depending on the subject area. For an hour and a half. It could be virtual, could be in person.
Okay.
Depends on the location.
Sure.
And then the tutor and the student simply have a chance to log their experience. They send a report back to the parents, so the parents are kept in the loop in terms of progress, homework, any alarming kind of considerations, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
if there is some sort of like red flag that goes off, then we check in with the other tutors. We check in with a student's guidance counselor. It's a very kind of we keep an open line of communication. That's usually what we like to call it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Seems very comprehensive. I love that. Okay. So you mentioned a little bit about progress. Is there specifically monitoring a client's progress? Is there, hey, we're going to purchase this package with so many hours, but what happens when they get the real results from the SATs, let's just say?
Well, that is usually good.
Okay.
Right? That's why I've been in business for as long as we have.
Yeah.
I would say early on having those conversations and kind of managing the expectations of saying, hey,
that's awesome.
Your son or daughter is at this particular score. We've seen, right, and not even just SAT, like let's just say broad spectrum. Someone calls me and they say, my son has a D in AP Bio. We're like, okay, don't panic, right?
Yeah.
I hear the overwhelming in your voice. It's okay, right?
Yeah.
But here, I'll be like, here's what we've done in the past. Here are ways that we're gonna, things that we can offer to maybe resolve this, and then we'll through the weekly meetings with the tutor or through the diagnostics, depending on the type of subject, the tutor will report back. And generally, if we're talking about academics, like if we're talking like 5th grade math, the parents are, I saw the report card, right? Everything's like, this is great. My son's teachers come back to me and he's more confident and he's happier and he's more engaged. And wow, I never thought he'd say he'd be a math student. Right?
Sure.
Because sometimes it's like that, and especially with COVID, a lot of our students who are coming to us now are not to their fault. They just maybe weren't built for virtual learning. Right? And so now it's just kind of reinstilling that confidence and making sure that you do have this. Maybe you just had like a bad year. And then we also, to flip side of that, we have a lot of people that come to us that are trying to stay ahead of the curve, where they have near perfect grades, right? And they are very, very good students, and they're intentionally coming to us so that way they get ahead, or maybe they're working with us to maybe get something that they normally can't get at their school.
Gotcha.
Right? Maybe their school doesn't offer an AP class, or maybe they want to do some sort of outside learning experience. And so we work with both types of students. Yeah.
I was going to say that because my daughter, when she was like in third or fourth grade, she was having issues, and with school, and they were saying it was like math, and they were like, we suggest a tutor, so we were like doing our research, and they said look for a Wilson certified tutor. Like that's what I was going to ask you.
You would have called us.
Yes. Okay,
right.
So
we would have worked out a plan.
Yeah.
Right. And Wilson certified is a specific type of certification. Yeah. Sometimes the school also asks for that too.
Yeah.
The specific counselor.
Yeah.
We have people on staff who are specifically Wilson certified for that. For that reason, and then we would make that match. You would get a progress report each week, right, or after every session, right, and that's generally the flow of things, right, or the rhythm.
And that's what with them too. So they obviously we found a lady that was local too, and obviously she did a diagnostic with her. Like it might not be like to your level, but what it was is like Ava it wasn't math, it was her reading, and they're doing math word problems. So her comprehension and reading, what she couldn't understand what she was reading, so she can't do a math problem and she has to read it. So they worked on it. As soon as she mastered that, we still kept her going, and now she's like an above average student, and she's just an honor student altogether. But like
that's great.
It took like the whole year, and then we just kept her going all summer. We kept seeing this person once or every 2 weeks, whatever we could afford at the time, and then just kept it going. Kind of, she'd been going to her for like 3 years. We kind of weaned her off now because she's in high school. But yeah, it was like, all right, now that you're ahead, let's stay ahead, or try to like keep it.
Sometimes that we notice that the parents will continue with the tutoring even after that student has kind of achieved certain, just to, like we said, kind of keep the rhythm and keep the confidence there, and and it doesn't have to be every week. That's the other thing. In an instance like that, where like let's say your daughter was working with this tutor, or let's say she's working with us, it would be, hey, can I call you before big tests or quizzes?
Yeah, and that's
we're like, okay, here we are. You work that out with the tutor. It's totally fine. We know that you're not going to be meeting every week, so you're not going to need, however many hours. Like our packages are pretty simplified. It's 15, 30, 60, 120.
Okay.
Right? And we give discounts intentionally depending on like what level of package you're gonna no different than if you like sign up for like a MailChimp subscription. Right? You sign up for the year, you get a discount. Right? Same idea. The more you sign up for, the more features you get. We just happen to like build it in a way that made it super simple and very user friendly, really, for families, and then just have their best interest at heart was basically kind of the whole vision of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So obviously the past couple of years we've been dealing with a global pandemic. every person has been affected in some capacity, whether it's health, whether it's their just the well-being or mental capacity, or their jobs, relationships, whatever. How has the pandemic affected the business? How has it shifted things, and maybe looking at what y'all do in a different perspective, maybe, or approach?
So there's kind of two things to this. First is that I personally believe, as like a business owner, and I have really good conversations with my wife all the time, because her running her Princess company, and she's also a realtor for Keller Williams. So it's like we bounce these ideas off of each other a lot, because we're kind of always planning ahead. And I personally always like to think kind of where the puck is going, not where it is.
Like it.
And so years ago, and you guys probably right around the same time, we were like, you know what, let's start doing YouTube videos. Let's start moving things online.
Yeah.
And you guys know, like, that's right.
Unreal.
A lot changes, a lot of that technology, what things you use now are probably not what you're going to use later.
Yeah.
And so because what happened was, our students who did really, really well in our initial test prep classes, they grew up, they went to college, they were like, I'm now at University of Michigan, can I get a calculus tutor? And we're like, well, turns out we can do that if we teach everyone how to do virtual. So the good side and the bad side of the pandemic was essentially it did slow things down in a matter of demand, right? A lot of schools went pass fail. They slowed the SAT down. They slowed the ACT down, just in general, because we're dealing with a worldwide pandemic. But we had already trained all of our tutors to go virtual. So when the time came where we're like, hey, let's, flip that switch literally and just move everything virtual, we were already set. We were good.
That's awesome.
Right.
Good.
And that it'd be awesome if you could cut like hair virtually. Right? You know what I mean? Like if you could just like that, but that's exactly what we did. We're like, here we are, boom. And then just everything. And then so nothing really. Things slowed down in terms of demand, but it didn't skip a beat. One cool thing it did is that, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but when we were exploring outside opportunities, a lot of the kids started to reach out because they're stuck at home all day, they're on their phones nonstop, and they're like, Mr. Anthony, can we get a TikTok?
Yeah.
Can we get? And I was like, I'm in my 30s, guys. You want to be that guy? Like, I'm just so my wife listened to me probably for like a week straight, do hundreds of SAT problems, breaking stuff down. I'm gonna go live, right? Scholarships, the whole deal. And to bless her heart, in like 30 days, we got close to like 25,000 followers.
Wow.
Holy smokes!
And it was insane, because I would my phone would just like constantly. And I was like, wow, I need to hire someone to handle this. This is crazy. Yeah. But it was cool, because we were now in a position to kind of like give back in a way. We're like, hey, let's take these videos, let's take this content we made, let's donate it to various places. And the kids still, reach out and stuff. But I'll never forget, we became number one in SAT prep and SAT math for like a week. That's so and I was taking screenshots.
That's awesome.
I was like, I'm so famous, and sending it along. And I was like, all these high school, I was like, I've made it. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I've made it. Like, we have all these tutors who are super successful. We've done so many great things. But I defined in that moment, I was like, TikTok. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, that was the bright side of the pandemic, is if you did it the right way, or found other opportunities, to take a lemon and turn into lemonade. It was basically, hey, we have extra time. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to spend it wisely? How are we going to give back? Basically. Yeah.
I love that. All right, just a quick question that I had. I believe I saw this on the website, was small group tutoring. Is that true? Does that actually take place? And if so, how does that work?
Well, our bread and butter for sure is definitely the personalized or customized private tutoring.
Sure.
Right. That's the primarily the focus, and the couplement of really great customer service. Shout out to Suzanne, and really good just making things as simplified as possible for the families. We do every once in a while get people that contact us and say, hey, I'd love to do a small group session, or the school doesn't, or my son's part of a baseball team, right? Yeah. And if I put a group together for you, can you make this happen? Yeah, sure. Good. Give us a call. let us know. We'll work out a group rate for you, right? We'll make all that, we'll do all those things. One cool thing, actually, personally speaking, and kind of why I personally do it as much as I do, is that a lot of our group classes now are now in local public schools and a lot of local high schools and various places. And years ago, when my wife and I actually just moved back to, I think it was like that fall, I was contacted by Harry S. Truman High School because they did, and it was my alma mater.
Wow.
Right. So here I was in a position, I'd like studied all over the place. I'd worked out at like Stanford University. I'd done research at different places, and we'd started this company. And now it's like, all right, we have tutors, we have a model, and Truman did not have an SAT prep class.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like, that would be, if I was in their shoes, I was like, that would not be. So we actually donated a prep class to them. We said, all right, well, let's donate a prep class. Greta Allen was a huge driving force, and so was John Craig, who's actually the principal there now. He's doing great things. Or definitely shout out to them, because especially through the pandemic, the things that they've had to adjust and kind of do, they're great. It's a great community. But once we had donated that class, it kind of sparked other local schools kind of caught on. Mm-hmm. Those kids then did well, kind of created a little bit of ripple effect. We had it under our belt. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, we had other nonprofits calling us, right? We work with Young Scholars in Trenton. We actually, for years, we were the official test prep provider for Red Bull, like the energy sports drink. Right? Yeah. So that one class, right, which is great, because it's like, here, I'm going to come home and give back, right? And then next thing you know, it just kind of rippled and it turned into a lot of bigger things. And now we have, I think altogether we have about 12 or 15 programs that usually run each year in various states and in various places, and now we might even move into the other places, right? We're talking about maybe doing one in Chicago that might be online. So it just gave us the opportunity to grow, which was great.
I love that. I remember in high school we all kind of did we had SAT prep courses. A lot of us had to hire our own tutor in that sense. But I remember same kind of thing. It was like, I don't know if it was a sports group or what it was. I think it was a sports group where someone reached out to another local high school to get different insight on how another public school was taking SATs. Yeah. And we all came together as a group. The one thing about the group was I was basically very immature, and I couldn't even handle it. It was just like I goofed off and thought it was funny, and it really wasn't. These people are like investing their time and energy. I just think it was the way I eventually redirected my energy, but that's the trouble with those things. With the group, you can kind of, and when I was one-on-one, I was very disciplined. You had my attention because everything was all on me. All the pressure was on me. Here, just being a young, immature kid, I was distracting other people. So I could see the pros and cons of that. Yeah. And then, we limited that to, I think, maybe 5 sessions. It was a very small, and then the individual one, I knew I had to ramp it up. And luckily I did well enough that, to move on. But I can see I just wasn't.
You're right. There's definitely pros and cons. I will say that the liaisons that we work with, who are the individuals who are responsible for essentially overseeing us working with that class, the better the liaison, the smoother the class. I'm actually big shout out to Carroll League and Catholic, right? In the 21st Century Grant. They do an amazing job. They work with, they're specifically responsible for working with a number of outside programs, whether it's like driver's ed or summer enrichment, and making sure that all those programs go smoothly in addition to the everyday kind of academic life. And our liaison that has been there specifically, she's been incredible, honestly. So it's like we're almost now down to the point where we'll text each other, and it's like, okay, cool, we know exactly what each other needs, and we've been working together for a number of years. So it definitely is a lot easier once you kind of have that repetition and the rapport, and you kind of know what to expect. And then they also they basically form the class, and they know, okay, if this student might be troublesome, right? I got to go talk to Johnny's parents in advance, kind of tackle that. So it just makes it so much easier when you have the right support at the school, and when you're talking specifically regarding like the classes. And the flip side, if we're talking about private tutoring, if the parents are involved, it's so much easier. Like the more invested they are, and if the student realizes, wow, I have all of these people like looking after me, I have progress reports. It's so hard to slip through the cracks, right? When the student realizes that, they're like, all these people care about me wanting to put myself in a better place, they have no choice but to show up. Right? You got to deliver, bud.
So 9 years.
You know what? I'm really good at math, but I actually forget. It's been a ride. Like I said, I want to say it's 9, perhaps 10.
Yeah.
But there's been, again, going back to that eureka moment, the moment that we started to put everything together into an actual packaged, really simplified, holistic model, that's been about, I would say, 6 years or so. And that has been, and that is, we've just added to that model. We've just let's add more because we think it's going to bring more value. The first couple of years were more or less brainstorming, building, finding the right people, testing the right marketing strategies. What do you do? How do you do it? And we don't have any investors. Like we've been self-funded since day one, which is also a little bit of a, you take a lot of risks, right? Now we can take more risks because we're like, yeah, sure. But in the beginning, everything's a risk, right? So you're like,
it's on you.
You're like, do we need internet? Like it's fun. How bad do we need, which room do we paint at what time? But now it's like we're looking for other properties and other things, and so we just think bigger now. But it's like you can't not feel blessed to do that, right? That's the nice thing about it.
So what has been maybe a very memorable moment for you throughout that entire thing? What's maybe one or two things that pop in your mind that you're extremely proud of or excited about?
Oh God, honestly, there have been so many. God, I don't know. I'm gonna have to let me think about that one. Like, oh God, it's like there have been so many good memories because honestly, our team is good. Like our team is really, really good. And so the tutors being able to celebrate, we try to do tutors givings now, where like we bring the tutor, we bring like, and I actually always end up cooking a little bit of it, like as best as I can. My best friend's actually a professional chef, so it's hilarious that I even say that. I probably shouldn't. Right? Like he's probably telling you, you're not. What
really, you do is not cooking.
What you do is like you just microwave. No, it's like no. But yeah, it's we've had a lot of successes to have the tutors we have. Actually, maybe just in a summary, watching the students grow.
Absolutely.
Like literally watching some students that have come to us since like 6th grade, and now they're graduating from their college, and they're like, I'm going to go work for Google. And I'm like, why? And like, how'd you do that? I'm like, just call me, like, you know what I mean?
Stay in touch.
And that happens. Like I have a student who is one of our first students ever, and he just booked a gig with FanDuel.
Wow.
And he's a great kid. He's a great kid. And that's the thing. Like all of our students now are like, I work for this, large real estate firm group, and she's doing amazing things up in New York. And there's another kid who's an aerospace engineer who was actually on my JV basketball team that I coached at back in the day. And like now he's so it's I think witnessing the growth is kind of the most beautiful thing of like watching them go from these. Yeah, it also makes me feel a little old to tell you the truth and be like, wow, you've done so many things. Yeah. And then, but even here, like we work with a lot of students who are first gen, right? Maybe their parents haven't gone to college, or maybe they don't even, but then they kind of find their path, like when we're working with students in Bucks County, and that's beautiful. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, Goose, we always talk about, him watching some of his clients. He's been in business for himself for 12 years now. And he's saying same thing. He's like, oh my God, I remember cutting this he was a kid when he's here. And now I'm cutting him for his wedding day. It's like that level of you see that. That's very
awesome,
rewarding.
Actually, that's awesome.
So what's something that you would like to look forward to for Embrace Tutoring? What are some of the projects or maybe goals that you have set in the next year or so, things to look forward to?
So right now we're actually in a big decision making phase, right? Because we're deciding we have an amazing team really core group, and a lot of that is to the credit of the partners, but also kind of the core group of tutors that we generally utilize at the facility, and also our relationships over the years that we've built and support and friends and family. But that's allowed us to think outside the box a little bit of like, what do we do? Do we franchise? Do we scale? Do we hire regional directors, et cetera? So that's kind of the process that we're in right now. We're even talking with app companies to potentially license some of the content we've created.
Okay.
And I would just say in general, regardless of which path we choose, we just want to make sure that we're doing what is in the best interest of the families, keep bringing a value education to our audience, and keep building like meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
I would say me personally, I obviously, Embrace is full time, but I want to make sure that we can do a little bit more like community outreach, right? Which is kind of one of the big reasons why I love you guys as much, right?
Yeah.
Growing up in Bristol Borough, and here we are, and I think you guys are doing amazing things for the city, right? And bringing
Appreciate
the right recognition. And even before we were chatting, I was telling Miguel that he cut my pop's hair like years back in the day, and I was like, this is awesome, right? When you were on the other side, and I think that's a big part of why I got into business, or like my entrepreneurship at heart, was just to try to figure out how to make a community impact. So I feel like implementing more things like that are kind of a personal goal and perhaps even a business goal of mine. Yeah.
So one of the questions we love to ask all of our guests is, how do you manage work life? Right, because everyone has a different approach. What works for me may not work for Gabe. What works for Gabe may not work for how that goes, right? So what's I get, no one has it down perfect. We're all a work in progress, right? We're not saying this is the ultimate answer, but for you, how do you manage it all, right? There's a lot of moving parts. You have family, you have work, business. Then even like what you're saying, Lou, it's got to be the entrepreneurial thoughts. You can't almost like stop that. That has to keep going. The creative processes, even with that, and all the major decisions needed to be made. Let us know, what works for you, or
that's such a good question. So first of all, anyone that even gets into this, everything you just said is exactly what runs through your mind, 900 times a day, right? Because I can stop doing business, but I won't stop thinking about business.
That's right.
And even if I'm doing something, I'm still strategizing, or I'm still kind of, or even like, for instance, my wife and I were at the King George Inn the other day. Yeah. And I know that she's sitting there, and we're having an amazing time, and I'm like, this is great. And I'm looking around, I'm like thinking to myself, what could we do here? Like, what? You know what I mean? I'm like, what are there's children's placemats? I wonder if they have a sponsor, or I wonder, you know what I mean? I'm just, the way a brain just like works that way. And like, absolutely. And it doesn't really, and I think that's actually, and since I was a kid, my friends and I were all kind of like little mini entrepreneurs. We would collect cans and recycle, and we would do different things. But I would say in general, work-life balance, it doesn't start without having really the support at home.
Absolutely.
Right. My wife is amazing. One of the reasons why we even ended up venturing out into this is because she gave the love and support, and her family's amazing. My family's amazing. Absolutely. They support every way that they can. Yeah. I'm sure my stepdad is going to share this on Facebook 100 times. I love it. I love that. It's like, because he is, and everyone supports in the way that they can. Yeah. And that's what I love about it. And my mom will be, I'm so proud of you. This is great, right? Yeah. And time is always hard, though. Right. Giving time is something I need to make a better adjustment to. But we definitely have the support of friends and family. From an actual day-to-day standpoint, we make lists. We're incredibly efficient, like my wife and I. Sometimes, even if she can't finish something, she's like, I wanted to get that done. It's like, it's all right, we can do it tomorrow. It's like we'll get to that. Yeah. But I think a lot of empathy too, because her owning Sing-Along Princess parties and also being a real estate agent, so now she's being still a professional singer and actress at heart, and she still does various shows and such, or performances or duets. it's just a lot of empathy, having good conversation, setting some ground rules, right?
Absolutely.
Of like you're not going to take a phone call before 9 a.m. or after 9 p.m. And then just follow through. And then over the years, business wise, it's made it a lot easier when you find the right people. When you find good, honest, driven people, you kind of have to always recognize they're not going to take it as seriously as you do, because it's your baby.
Exactly.
But you're letting people watch your baby or some element of your baby for a short period of time, and the more we put them in a position, the more we do for our tutors and they do better, the easier our life becomes. So realistically, it's just a lot about trust and a lot about finding the right people. Yeah.
Well said.
That's awesome.
Okay, so 2 final things before we close out here. One, is there anything you wanted to, any topic you wanted to discuss that we didn't get to? And 2, if not, that's okay. But what's the best way folks can reach out to Embrace Tutoring, website, social media, anything that you wanted to promote in that sense?
Well, I think you guys have promoted me enough, so I appreciate the time. But I would say, yeah. So for Embrace Tutoring, it's simply just www.embracetutoring.com, or simply send us an email at info@embracetutoring.com. If you want to get in touch with me personally, usually my LinkedIn is the one that gets, I don't want to say spammed, but that's the one where random like investors or business related questions will come in, and that's through Anthony Weinkopff at LinkedIn. I guarantee I'll be the only one there with that last name. So feel free to find me. Yeah. If you're looking for additional resources, or if you found value out of this, I would say, or maybe you're just debating on, hey, which test is going to be best for my daughter or son, I would definitely explore our Embrace Tutoring TV YouTube channel. I think that would be, or Instagram. That's it. Everything there is totally free, just as content there to kind of give back. And if you want to have a more sincere conversation, just give us a call.
I love it. Yeah. All right. I love it. We like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one is by William Arthur Ward. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. And the second one by Pete Carroll. Each person holds so much power within themselves that needs to be let out. Sometimes they just need a little nudge, a little direction, a little support, a little coaching, and the greatest things can happen. Embrace Tutoring. In this episode, we have special guest Anthony Weinkopff. We cover topics that range from learning, teaching, study habits, the importance of positivity, effects of the pandemic, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from William Arthur Ward and Pete Carroll. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.